Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for attending this session about cognitive services and apps. I would like to thank you all for being here. I know there's a lot of other sessions that you could choose from, a lot of sessions that are happening at the same time, a lot of subjects that are crossing each other. So I really thank you for being here all today. Like I said, I would like to talk to you today about giving your apps a personal touch with cognitive services. The title of this session already gave away a little bit what I'm talking about, but as you can see here on the shirt, I'm an inspiring speaker. So for today, I'll try to inspire you. I'm not going to really deep dive into some hardcore code stuff. I'm just trying to give you a feeling that when you leave this room, you will feel inspired and want to try at least some of the things that I will show you today. So a little bit about myself. My name is Marco Kuiper. For those of you that know me already a little bit better than today, will recognize a little bit that my sound of my voice is a little bit different. I have a little bit of a cough, so if you hear me coughing sometimes, I apologize in advance already. But other than that, I just like to talk a lot about the things that I love to do. I work at InfoSupport, a company in Veenendaal, and I am officially within the company. I have the function of a manager, but I don't call myself a manager. I like to call myself a code monkey. I don't wear a suit, so I'm not a manager, so get that point. And you can follow me on Twitter as well on @marcofolio. And one of the things that I really love to do is to play around with are the things like the bots that you saw earlier in the presentation, but I also really like to play around with apps. So that's what we're talking about in this presentation. So back in 2007 already, the first iPhone was released. So that's when Steve Jobs stood on the stage all the way in America and telling the world, okay, guys, this is the new generation of a phone. And it had apps on that phone. Back then, apps were only distributed by Apple. They didn't have an app store or anything like that. So only the apps that were located on the iPhone were those that were distributed by Apple. Okay, fast forward, we're now in 2017 already, and look what we have. We have like a lot of app stores. We have not only iOS, but we have Android and Windows Phone. But we have a lot more than just the app. So back in 2017, we only have like simple applications like the calculator or texting or anything like that. But right now, the immersive environment of an application is a lot broader, where you have on the Android phone you have like widgets, and on the iOS you have things on your lock screen. So your app is more than just the small application that is sitting on your home screen. It is really integrated into your life. So what we see right now is that where the app started as a really small thing that is really inside its own box, it can now broaden its spectrum and reach out of that. And that's what we're seeing today as well. We're trying to make the phone and the apps with it a lot smarter. You have a full immersive environment within your operating system, where you used to have all the separate applications doing all kind of little things. Now with things like Siri and Google Now and Cortana, you have one unified interface to talk to your phone and get all the information that you want and need. So the phone as a whole is getting a lot smarter, and with that we try to make it even better. So what we're seeing today, like I said, I already talked about a little bit about Cortana and Siri. We're trying to make the phone your personal assistant. So you don't have like a physical person walking next to you, taking notes and everything. You have your phone that does everything for you just in your pocket. The problem with the personal assistant that we have today is that this is not that smart. Especially for those really high important managers and everything that need to have like appointments placed inside their agenda, the phone isn't really capable of doing that. So that's the point we are at this stage right now. And we want to take it one step further, and that's where things like cognitive services come in play. Oh, a little bit of a background. I like to build my applications using the technology of Xamarin. I'm not going to do a deep dive in Xamarin. The demos today will be with a little bit of Xamarin, but other than that, you can just use any technology with that. Okay, back to cognitive computing. So one of the things that I wanted to do is make your application smarter, so your phone as a whole will be a lot smarter and more useful for you. So that's when I dove into cognitive computing. And that's when I was looking online, so okay, what actually is cognitive computing? So the first thing you do when you don't know anything about it, you Google it, and 99 out of 100 times you end up in Wikipedia, and that's where you have like a lot of information. And this is what Wikipedia says when you look at cognitive computing. At present, there's no widely agreed upon definition for cognitive computing in either academia or industry. And I was like, okay, so even if those smart guys don't even know what cognitive computing is, how the hell should I know? Okay, so when we take a little bit of research and do a deep dive and go away from Wikipedia, there's a simpler other definition of cognitive computing telling that hardware and or software that mimics the functioning of the human brain. So what we're actually trying to achieve here is with cognitive computing, check if we can make an application that smart that it can act as a human brain. On the left side of here, you see in big letters AI, because that's where it's really close to, artificial intelligence. So yeah, it would be really awesome, right? Making sure that the application that I'll be building will be that smart that I can actually use that as your personal assistant. And that's where the cognitive services come in play. The cognitive services are a couple of services from Microsoft that you can use as your brain in the cloud. It's that simple. You can just call and make use of the power that's inside the cloud and make sure that you can elaborate that knowledge and everything inside your application, expanding and broadening your reach to what you would normally have only on your phone. So there are like 5 of the categories within the cognitive services, which I'll handle a little bit in depth later in the session. So you'll see them and what they're capable of and how you can use them for your next project, making sure that your app will be a lot more personal than just the text that you would see on the device. So why would you even think of using the cognitive services? Well, first of all, it's really, really easy. Like I said, I'm a code monkey, I'm a developer. I'm not an AI expert. I don't know anything about Azure Data Lakes. I don't know nothing about R and programming language and deep neural networks and everything like that. So for me as the developer, the first steps into AI is with cognitive services, because that's really, really simple. The second one is flexible. You can use it everywhere. Like I said, I'm going to show you some examples using Xamarin. So you have like NuGet packages and everything like that. But you can even use this within a website, because everything is just REST-based. So even if you're a Java programmer, you can make use of the cognitive services. So it's really powerful and very easy. And the last thing, and not as surely not least, is the quality of the cognitive services is pretty good. You'll see in my examples, it's not perfect yet, but they're getting there. A lot of the things that I was telling before, like the data lakes and R and really some machine learning, that's everything that we can use and elaborate within those cognitive services. But yeah, you'll see it's not there yet. We'll just wait and see, and it will get there. It will get smarter. But why would you add it to your mobile phone? Why is the step to using your mobile phone a very logic one? And that's because your phone is always with you. It's really weird for me right now because my phone is right there instead of my pocket. So that's why I'm like checking if my phone is there. And with that, you have the power to access, with your phone, you have the power to access those cognitive services. So you can make use of all that knowledge that is inside of the cloud. And the phone is a connected device. It is most of the time connected to the internet, so most of the time you can also access those cognitive services that are living inside the cloud. So it's really useful for you to have an application that can use that power. And last but not least is that the mobile phone is actually loaded with a lot of sensors. So you have the gyroscope and the camera and the microphone and the audio speakers and everything. And that's what makes it almost like a human. So this is our goal. What we want to achieve later is make the phone that smart that it should act like as if it is a real human being, and that will help you later in stages for making something like a personal assistant or anything like that. So we can see stuff with the camera, we can hear stuff with the microphone, and we can even communicate with like text-to-speech, like playing it through the speaker, or just visually with images and everything like that. So it's really a way for users to make the phone as a whole smarter. That being said, going back a little bit to the cognitive services, which kind of categories there are and what they can do. The first one is actually one of the most visual one and most of the fun ones to play around with. It's called the Vision API, and it has everything to do with seeing stuff, so really being the eye of the user. There are subcategories like the computer vision that tells you what the computer is seeing, content moderating if you're viewing adult content for something, example. The emotion API to see if people are happy or sad or anything like that. The face API that recognizes if you're a male or female, and the video API that helps you to like extract data from a video. Of course, I can tell you this, but especially since this is the Vision API, I can also just show you. Okay, who can just tell me in plain words what they'll see on this picture? A building. What? Trees, a building, anything else? Cars, a road, very good, very good. Okay, so this is actually a picture of the office at Info Support in Veenendaal, so that's where I work. And when I pass that through the Computer Vision API, it's almost the same things as you guys are saying right now. The description that I'm getting back is, I see a row of parked cars on a city street, and at the bottom you'll see outdoor, sky, road, and a car. One of the things that I heard in the audience was building. Yeah, I'm missing that as well. Obviously, there's a huge building inside of this picture, so that's what I'm saying. It works. It is not perfect, but it works. So for basic image recognition, that's where the computer vision helps a lot. But as you can see, below the text, there's a certain type of confidence. So that's what the computer vision API is returning to us. Yeah, I think it's a row of parked cars on the city street, and I'm like 72% sure. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I recognize this. But the tags on the bottom, those are pretty close, right? I mean, it's outdoor, you see a sky, there's a road, there's some cars, and that's why the confidence is higher as well. Okay, who recognizes this picture? Can you tell me a little bit what this picture is? Exactly. It were the Oscars, actually, back in 2015 or 14 already. At the time this picture was taken, it was the most retweeted picture on Twitterverse, especially since it was Ellen DeGeneres' account that they made this picture, and because of all the famous people, it got lots and lots of retweets. So pass this through the Face API, and then it recognizes at least the gender of the people, which is pretty close, or actually really good, and the age. I think a couple of those especially female people, are not that happy with the face recognition on this one. But that's really because it's really close to being like a human being. I mean, when someone steps up to me and asks me, do you know my age? And I'm like, oh crap, is he like 20 or 30? It's the same problem as the cognitive services have. But you do get like an ID of what kind of age group they are. The thing is that it also can recognize what kind of people are on that picture. Over here you see a description like Jennifer Lawrence, Ellen DeGeneres, Bradley Cooper and everything posing for a photo, and his confidence is like 96%. That's really high, and it is correct actually. So the people in the picture are that famous that they are being identified by the computer vision API. So that's pretty powerful, right? You have a question? A good question. The question was about, does it do really the recognition or does it do an image search? It's the combination of both. Obviously, this is Microsoft technology. They have the Bing searches, so they have Bing image searches everywhere, and they use the image database together with tagging that people do, and that's when the system learns, and that's why really those famous people we really get recognized by the computer vision API. So yeah, good question. Another one. Mm-hmm. The real age. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Yeah, those are the things that we can build as developers probably to make the next step. But yeah, I get where you're going. Yeah, it might be one of the things that the system can improve. Smart, smart. So checking Wikipedia if a person is really identified as that person, and giving back the right age and gender and everything. If you're not sure, I think we should call Microsoft and just say no. Why? That might be discussable, but yeah, it's a good. I know. Okay, after the session we'll just have a talk about this. But I like the idea. I like the idea. So, like I said, the Face API is also able to recognize emotions. So that's why I have this picture of one lady that does a lot of emotions, and we can use that inside of our applications to check how a user is feeling. Over here, I choose one of the pictures, and with that, I get a result, and it gets me information about the anger, the contempt, the disgust. But the fun thing is that the picture that I chose on the left, you'll see that the user is really happy. It's like an identification of, okay, I think for 80% sure that you're happy, but you're also a bit surprised. And looking at the picture, I can imagine you're surprised. I'm not really sure, but at least I'm sure you look happy. So that's the kind of stuff that we can do with the cognitive services to make sure to feel how a user is feeling. And with that, I'm also getting like rectangle information back. So when we have the picture that we can recognize, we know which kind of block information gives the certain score. So in a group picture with a lot of people, you can see which guys are smiling or not. And take that one step further. You can recognize that when everybody is smiling, that's the moment you want to take a picture instead of before. So no mere clicking and say, oh, okay, you have your eyes closed and you are not smiling, do it again. With stuff like the cognitive services, you can do that yourself or automatically. So you don't have to wait for the correct moment. It just recognizes people and see what it's doing. So for that, I'll just dive in a little bit of a demo. Always fun. Oh, that's my Vocalis bot. So, like I said, I'm going to do this in Xamarin. With that comes Visual Studio on the Mac. I'll just show you a little bit what the application does, and then I'll just dive into code. Code is always good. So we'll just start up the application. I call the application "What am I looking at?" So it's not really an application that you would download because it might have a weird name. It doesn't have any fancy name or something like that. So. But that's one of the things that I want to give you today as well. Make sure the user is really connected to the application. So it's really simple. Right now we have the screen already up and running. I only have one button up there. I didn't do any really hard work to make a beautiful UI because that's not the essence of this presentation. But I'll just show you what the cognitive services think you're looking at. So for that, I'll just have a little bit, a couple of images that are right here. And I want to ask you, okay guys and girls, what do we see here? Statue of Liberty, that's correct. And the second one, what do we see here? Mona Lisa, right? That's not a hard one. Okay, this one's really hard. The next one's gonna be really hard. Who's that? Yeah, thank you very much. That's my profile picture actually on Twitter. So that's me. I was traveling in Brazil back then, so it's a vacation picture of myself. And the next one, who's that? Ryan Gosling, correct. So I have 4 pictures that I want to pass along to the computer vision API and just tell me what the heck am I looking at. So think about you walking around in an unknown city, taking pictures, and the system just telling you, okay, this is what I see, and I think you're looking at something that's like that. So if you bump into Ryan Gosling, just take a picture and it will tell you that's Ryan Gosling, right? So, okay, so let's... Oh, there we go. So here we go again. Tell me what am I looking at. So I'll just press the button, take the camera roll, and open the first image with the Statue of Liberty, right? I think you're looking at a large body of water in front of a building, and I'm 88% sure. That's bad. I mean, everybody, probably everybody in this room recognizes that building, they're saying, as the Statue of Liberty. And here you see that the cognitive services isn't always right. It has to learn, it has to train to become better, and especially with really buildings that everybody know, I think it's sad that it isn't perfect. It does work. It does say it's not fully 100% right, but still, I mean, yeah, Statue of Liberty. Let's see, let's go for the next one. So the next one was the Mona Lisa. It will just upload the file to the Mona Lisa and it will tell you, I think you're looking at the Mona Lisa sitting on a couch. I'm 70% sure. Oh, it recognizes a couch? Probably because of the pose that it recognizes that the person is sitting. But it's still interesting because I think 3 or 4 months ago, the cognitive services actually told me when I was uploading this picture, I think you're looking at Leonardo, the painter. So I was like, how does he know the painter? And not telling me that it is the Mona Lisa. And that's where you see that the cognitive services are actually learning and improving. So that's where you see the Microsoft cognitive services team is really making the system better, making sure that everything, the higher percentage gets scored. So let's go for my picture. I think you're looking at a man standing on a rock. I'm 87% sure. Well, I was sitting on a rock, but I get where you're going. I mean, I'm a man, obviously, and the scores percentage is high. But there's still a couple of things missing that we can improve, but 87% is pretty good. My life goal would be actually that the cognitive services would recognize me as Marco, obviously. That's one of the things that everyone wants. But still, okay, I have this information that I can do something with. And last but not least, this won't be a big surprise, but the Ryan Gosling one. I think you're looking at Ryan Gosling wearing a suit and a tie, looking at the camera. I'm 98% sure. Well, how more correct could it be? This is the kind of information that we can use inside of our applications. For example, when you have to make a picture of something, and it can do like an early easy check. For example, the scavenger hunt that is inside the game of the TechDays apps. It probably uses this kind of information to check if you have found a rubber duck, because it can really recognize the easy, simple objects, and it has keywords that are being returned, and that's the kind of information that we will use inside of our application. So one of the things that I want to point out is that the button that I'm actually pressing is telling me, or saying, tell me what am I looking at. It's not like a button, take a picture. It's really, tell me what am I looking at. And that's the next step that we want to achieve, because that's what it really makes the app personal. Instead of take a picture and tell me what to see, it's tell me what am I looking at. It's like as if the app is really trying to interact with the user. So looking at the code, just really basic. It's not that pretty code. I'll just dive directly inside of the view model. And over here, there are some property command chains, some description that I show. But here are the most important things. So the first block that I selected over here is actually just to take a picture. I'm using a NuGet package for that. It has been developed by James Montemagno. It allows you to take a picture in a cross-platform matter in iOS and in Android. So it's really just a couple of codes, lines of code that you can use to access the camera. Another thing is that it then says the description. And over here, only these lines of code are the magic that we need to use to access the computer vision API. So over here, we actually create a computer vision service client with a key and an API route. The API route is a location within Azure where the computer vision is located. Over here, we see that I have located it in West Europe. You can leave this empty, but it will default to West US. And when your Azure subscription is not in West US, you'll get the weirdest errors. It took me really a while to get there, but anyway, the this line of code is really where all the magic happens. So I'm just asking the computer vision API, describe what you're seeing. And with that, I'm getting like the text, what I think it's seeing. With that, I'll get the confidence, what I think it's seeing, and also a list of tags, but I didn't display that within the application. And eventually, I'll just parse some information, and I'll set the description that I think you're looking at some kind of caption, and I'm for that percentage sure. So this is really, really simple. I mean, I didn't write anything about machine learning or deep dives or deep neural networks. I just called one method. And that's one of the greatest things about cognitive services. For me as a developer, it's really easy to access something like this, which is really powerful. Okay, just stop it first. I'll just return to the slides. So that's a little bit about the Vision API. And one of the cool, really, really awesome things is that, which was announced during Build this year, is the Custom Vision API. And the Custom Vision API allows you to take pictures of things and upload it to your Vision API and train that API to recognize your images. So where the cognitive services Custom Vision API has learned from things like the Bing images, you can now train your own model. For example, if you really like trains, I don't know, something like, if you really like trains, you can take a lot of pictures of the trains in the Netherlands of the different types, and you can train the Custom Vision API to recognize specific kind of trains. Not just saying like the general, I see that you have a picture of a train. No, I see you have a picture of a train with this model riding on that type of track. So that's where the computer vision API is really simple, and it allows you to really train a model. So if you're thinking about a train spotting app, you can just use your custom vision API or anything like that. Just upload images, train the model, and use it to make your app even better. Okay, the next type of category within the custom vision, within the cognitive services is speech. Obviously, it uses Bing speech, custom recognition intelligence service, CRIST, and speaker recognition. And those are the types of things that we use with the microphone. With that, you can learn about how people are talking. You can recognize them, and also you can verify if the voice that you're hearing is really from that same person that you expect it to be. So, for example, I have here a guy, let's call him Joe. Joe trains the model to be recognized as Joe. And then when he's in a meeting, you can identify which people, well, which persons are talking and which are not Joe, which one is Joe. And think about it one step further, especially when we're thinking about that personal assistant, is when you train the cognitive services that good that you can recognize everybody in the meeting, you can just place your phone on the table, start recording, and everything that's being said during that meeting will be automatically transcribed to text, and also with the correct name of the speaker at that moment. So what you can have is like you have a full transcript of the conversation saying, okay, Joe said that, and Senna said that, and the other person said that, and after that you have a full transcript of everybody who has been talking. This is also the technology that they're using at the Microsoft conferences. They're auto-translating the text of the speakers. So if you would be looking live at this session right now, everything will be subtitled directly. But they haven't implemented it yet to actually recognize the speakers, but they do the auto-translate or the auto-caption for the session, which is really useful, and obviously that's something that you can implement inside your application. And there's a lot of language stuff going on inside of the cognitive services. There's spell checking, linguistic analytics, Lewis service is really awesome, and that's where I do a little bit of a deep dive in my session later today, because that's something that I really like to use within bots. The translator, the web language model. There's a lot of things going on inside of the language sector and beyond, within the cognitive services. One of the things that's really common within those things that we use in a mobile phone is the word fixes. How do you say that? I forgot. The replacements of words when you have a wrong one. So what the cognitive services for you can do is actually replace words when it thinks it has a better one. And the most awesome thing is that it recognizes those words are surrounded by their context. For example, the third one, director Steven Spielberg should use in the next AI movie. Steven apparently, yeah, obviously is a name, so it should be with a capital, but it also recognizes that it is Steven Spielberg written with a V instead of a PH. So it recognizes the context, seeing that you really meant Steven Spielberg, and then it says, okay, let's go with a V instead of just only capitalizing it. And that's the kind of stuff that could really help you, making your app a lot personal, making sure that everything is spelled correct. Next one is search, and this is actually just an encapsulation of the Bing services that we have. Bing Autosuggest, Bing Image Search, Bing News Search, checking which kind of information is new, and the web search and everything like that. So this is just a way for us as a user to access the power or harvest the power from the Bing services. I know a lot of people use Google, but when you're using the cognitive services, why not go for Bing just for the search results or anything like that? Getting the data back, making sure you parse that data, and making sure that everything works as you would expect, not knowing that Bing is under the hood working for you. And the last one that I want to talk to you about today is the Knowledge API. And the Knowledge API is one of the things that has been a lot in preview, but it can be really useful for you. I have to admit, I had to think about how can I use the Knowledge APIs within my applications. But then I came up with something that I think is really cool, especially to make your apps even more personal, because you can just talk to your API, and it will get you a lot of knowledge. It's like talking to a live dictionary standing next to me, like a live Wikipedia, asking something, and he knows everything. That's everything about the Knowledge API. One of the things that I want to show you is the entity linking intelligence service, and that's pretty cool. So I'm just going to do a demo about that one, and for that I'll just close this one, and I'll open the give me context information. So for that I have, that's up and running. For that I had the case that I'm not that much of an art lover, but I do tend to go to museum. And the thing is that when I walk around in a museum, I like, okay, I like this picture and it looks good, but it's not telling me anything about the picture, what it's on or anything like that. But you do usually see those little signs next to a painting, right? It gives you a little bit of context. But what if we could use those context information on that screen to give me even more knowledge? So what I'm showing right here is that it's a picture of one of the screens or one of the signs that is within the Louvre, and it sells. It's something telling about Mercury and Argus. It's a painting between 1836 and 1840, so really old, oil on canvas, but it's not saying me much, especially since I'm not an art lover. I don't know much about that. So that's when I started to think, okay, let's change some cognitive services, making sure that we can extract some information. So what we're going to do here is doing some basic OCR. So we'll just recognize the text and transfer it to just machine learnable, readable text, and we'll pass it on to the entity linking service, making sure that we have all the information that we want. So this is a little bit cleaned up code. It's over here we see the different kind of services that I'm talking to. So I have a computer vision service, the entity linking service, and the media service that we use to extract the picture. So we'll first recognize the text. That's the first step we're trying to do here. And after that, we'll try to link the entities that we have found within the application. So let's run this application. I'll see actually what it does. And then you'll get a lot of a better idea of why this could be useful and why this is a lot more personal. So once again, I'm asking the application, give me more context. So instead of, once again, take a picture of anything, is you ask the application, give me more context. And what's the context about? Well, just upload the image, and it's thinking, it's determined contact info, and it found more info about a couple of items. And those are the text that we can recognize within that image, and it has also like a percentage score, making sure that the application actually recognizes what and what not is on that picture. But one of the fun things is that because we are using the entity linking service, it returns to me the Wikipedia URL. So, for example, Jupiter is over here. But Jupiter is a planet, but also a Greek god. And click on that link, and let's see if it... There we go. It goes directly to the mythology page of Wikipedia and not to the planet page Jupiter. And that's because it recognizes the context as a whole, so it knows what kind of Jupiter you meant. No, not the planet Jupiter, but this one. And now I have the option to read more about this god, and that's how I could learn about the painting, what the painting is all about, and just saying from, okay, Jupiter, in the text, I don't know anything about Jupiter. So instead of taking your phone out, Googling Jupiter, guessing which kind of Jupiter you meant, you can just go directly to pages like this one because it recognizes the context. Fun fact is that when you go back and we go to the oil painting, we saw Mona Lisa again, but that's just a coincidence. So that's the kind of stuff that you can do with those cognitive services. As you can see, it does make your app a lot smarter than it does today. It really recognizes the context. For example, when I would ask Siri right now, tell me something about Jupiter, it would probably tell me something about the planet instead of really the Greek mythology. But things are getting better, so just as like the cognitive services are getting better, the Siri is getting smarter as well. Back to the slides. So this was the name of my presentation, Give Your Apps a Personal Touch with Cognitive Services. And with that, I hope I have inspired you just a little bit, showed you a little bit about what the cognitive services are and what they can do and what they probably not can do. But there's one thing I would like to give away with you when you leave this room, and is that you should actually I should have rebranded my session to design your applications with a personal touch with cognitive services. Right now, all the applications that we're building is pretty static. It doesn't have much interaction talking back to the user, like back and forth conversations. So, like the buttons that I have, give me some context or tell me what I'm looking at. That's the kind of stuff that I want to see in your next application to really make it even personal, more personal. One of the things that I have inside of my application is that when you start the application, you would normally get like a message in iOS for those iOS users. Okay, this application wants access to your photo library because it can do this and that. But I changed that message into, okay, I need eyes to see. That's more personal, right? I mean, the application needs eyes to see so it can tell you what it is looking at. So it's those little things that you can do to design your apps to make it even more personal, and making use of the power of the cognitive services makes it even have a smarter brain that you can use. So that's pretty awesome, right? Now we have the brain inside of our application, or inside of our phone. We have a really smart application that we can use for our next future projects. Bear in mind with me that the cognitive services aren't that perfect yet, but like I said, they're training and making it better every day. So in the future, just go to the documentations. There you see a lot. Like I said, better AI will be there. It will get better over time. Right now there are a couple of languages that are supported, but some of them aren't yet, but they'll add those features in the future. A lot of the stuff that I showed you today is actually still in preview, which is weird because some of the things are not in preview, some of them are in the Azure portal that you can use, as some are only available. Example, the entity linking service is only available on the Cognitive Services website and is not part of the Azure APK. So they're still moving stuff around, making sure that everything is getting out of preview, making it better for us to use. Oh, and also one thing that right now, not all Azure regions are supported, especially the stuff that is still in preview is only available in West US, which is not that big of a problem. But if you want to really have everything in Europe, or for example, yeah, you have to wait before it goes out of preview, because that's the point that the Azure regions will be more available. One thing that I'm really excited about was actually this blog post. It's from 14th of September, so it's a month old right now. The Custom Vision service introduces classifies exports starting with Core ML for iOS. As you might know, iOS 11 has Core ML support. So Core ML is like machine learning on the device. And with the Custom Vision API that I talked about earlier, you can export it to a public model, and you can just import that model within your iOS 11 application built with Xamarin. Long story short, you can just do some local custom vision API calling without just calling every time the API. So you have like real-time image recognition on your device without even having going to the custom vision API. And they're using open standards for that, which is pretty awesome. So you just download your core. No, it's I forgot the name, but you just download the file from the Custom Vision API, import that in your site, in your application, and you can just start scanning around, making sure that you have your custom entities recognized. With that, I would like to think about the cognitive services as well. Retrain your models, keep improving those models. The second one is the Q&A maker. It's a little bit more for the bot framework, used at the bot framework, but it uses the smartness from the cognitive services to make a Q&A a lot easier. Like I said, the Custom Vision API is easy. Just log in there, just try, upload photos, and you can just play around with it, and it's pretty awesome. The last thing that I have on this slide was the Azure Machine Learning Studio. If you really, I don't know why, but if you really want to make the next step, so you think cognitive services isn't that good enough for you, and you really want to take a deep dive into machine learning, Azure ML Studio is your first step, and after that, that's where the real hardcore stuff happens. But if you want to go into machine learning, go to studio.azureml.net. That having said, AI is a really hot topic right now. A lot of companies, including ours, don't really know where to start, but that's where InfoSupport can help you as well. So if you want to start your AI experiment now, go to ai-experiments.io, and that's where my colleagues from InfoSupport can help you. They have something called the AI Canvas, and they will help you getting AI off the ground within your company. Obviously, AI is a bit of a buzzword, is a vague term, and this will help you think outside of the box, think how machine learning or AI can help you on your next project. And that's actually the end of my slide deck. I want to really thank you for your time. Obviously, after the session, I'll be available for questions. You can also visit me at the InfoSupport stand downstairs. At the bottom, you'll see some URLs where I have the code online for the Give Me Context Info application and the What Am I Looking At application. And yeah, I think that's it. Thanks all.